The cursor blinks. You type one sentence, delete it, your jaw tightens. Silence. You open a new tab, then another. Then another. The document is still empty. It's not laziness. It's that if you stay there, you might have to admit something. Maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe you don't know what does, so you switch. Movement feels like progress. Noise feels like safety. But you know the difference. Your brain has been trained to chase quick spikes. Depth feels slow, heavy, exposed. And every time you click away, you tell yourself, it's harmless. It isn't. This isn't about discipline, it's about what your attention refuses to face. Stay. Or keep pretending it's just distraction. You don't notice it at first. Your thumb is already moving. A small upward flick. Screen lights up. No decision, no intention, just movement. You were sitting still for 3 seconds. That was enough. A pause in the conversation. A slow loading page. A quiet room. And something inside you tightened. Your jaw clenched slightly. Your shoulders pulled forward. Your breath shortened. So you reached. Not because you wanted to. Because silence feels unbearable. You scroll without seeing. Tap without reading. Swipe without caring. Your eyes move fast, your mind doesn't. Another video. Another headline. Another notification. Tiny hits. Tiny sparks. Tiny relief. Then nothing. Then the faintest drop in your chest. So you refresh. Again. You tell yourself it's harmless. Just 5 minutes. Just a quick check. But the quick check becomes a rhythm. And the rhythm becomes reflex. You open the phone while the kettle boils, while the elevator descends, while someone finishes a sentence. You don't even remember deciding, it's automatic. And when the battery dies, something in you panics, not loudly, quietly, a subtle restlessness, like your skin doesn't quite fit. You look around. There's nothing urgent, nothing wrong, just space. And space feels dangerous. So your mind looks for noise. You tell yourself you're just staying informed, just catching up, just relaxing. But your body says something else. Your eyes are tired. Your head feels heavy. Your thoughts are scattered. You start a task. 3 minutes in, you switch tabs. Another thought, another urge, another flick of the thumb. You don't even ask why anymore. It's not curiosity. It's compulsion. And the worst part? You call it normal. Everyone does it. Everyone is tired. Everyone is distracted. So you keep going. But underneath the scrolling, underneath the endless stream of color and sound, there's something else. A faint discomfort. A question you don't let finish forming. Because if you stop, if you truly stop, you might have to sit with the quiet. And the quiet might show you what all this noise has been covering. We're not naming it yet. Not fully. But your body already knows. And it keeps reaching. You wake up tired. Not physically, mentally, as if your brain ran all night and forgot to shut down. You slept. You closed your eyes. But you didn't rest. Before your feet touch the floor, you're already scrolling. A quick check, messages, news, notifications, a rush before breakfast. You tell yourself it helps you wake up. But what it really does is flood you. Your nervous system spikes before your first sip of water. And by noon, you feel strangely hollow. You start something important, an email, a report, a workout plan. 7 minutes in, your attention fractures. A thought interrupts. You open another tab, then another. You don't finish. Later, you feel the weight of it. Guilt, a quiet accusation in your chest. You should be more disciplined, so you push harder. More coffee, more tabs, more stimulation. But the harder you push, the thinner your focus becomes. You're not lazy. Lazy people don't feel this guilty. Lazy people don't care this much. You care. That's the problem. You want to focus. You want to build something real. You want depth. But your mind feels slippery, like trying to hold water in your hands. You promise yourself you'll reset tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll wake up earlier. Tomorrow you'll delete the apps. Tomorrow you'll be different. But tomorrow arrives with the same restlessness, the same automatic reach, the same fragmentation. And by evening, you're exhausted again. Not from effort, from dispersion. From being pulled in 10 directions without moving anywhere meaningful. You sit on the couch at night. Another show plays. Not because you love it, because silence feels heavier. Because if the screen goes dark, your thoughts get louder, and your thoughts don't feel kind. So you numb them with movement, scroll, watch, click. Tiny hits of relief, tiny escapes from the weight of unfinished things. You're overstimulated, but undernourished. Your brain is full. Your sense of progress is empty. And here's the turn you've been avoiding. This isn't about discipline. It's about depletion. Your system is tired of constant reward without meaning, tired of effort without depth, tired of input without integration. You didn't fail at focus. Your focus has been eroded, quietly, daily, by 1,000 small distractions that felt harmless. And now, when you try to sit still, your own mind feels unfamiliar, like it belongs to someone else. And you don't know how to bring it back. Yet. Your brain was not built for this. It was built to hunt, to solve, to wait, to invest effort into something uncertain and feel satisfaction only after resistance. But now, satisfaction arrives instantly. No effort required. One swipe, one click, one refresh, a hit of novelty. Dopamine doesn't care what you consume. It only cares about anticipation, and you live in permanent anticipation. The next post, the next message, the next piece of stimulation. Your system never completes the loop. It never rests in fulfillment. It stays in chase mode. Constant micro rewards, constant spikes, constant drops, and every drop feels like something is missing. So you spike again. This is not dramatic, it's mechanical. Your reward system has been trained to expect speed, fast pleasure, fast validation, fast change. Meaning, however, is slow. Meaning requires friction. Meaning demands sustained attention. And sustained attention now feels uncomfortable, almost painful. You sit down to read something complex. 3 paragraphs in, your mind protests. You check the time. You feel an urge. You don't even know what for. Just something, anything, relief. You've trained your brain to prefer fragments over depth. Short over long. New over meaningful. And the cost is subtle. You don't notice it immediately. You just feel slightly less patient, slightly less motivated, slightly less alive. The things that once felt satisfying now feel heavy. Projects that require months feel impossible. Conversations that demand listening feel exhausting. You don't finish books anymore. You skim. You don't reflect, you react. And here is the uncomfortable shift. You didn't lose discipline. You lost tolerance for depth. Your system adapted to stimulation. Now stillness feels like deprivation, and deprivation feels threatening. So you escape it. Again. The more you feed fast rewards, the less capacity you have for slow meaning. And meaning is not optional. It's oxygen for your psyche. Without it, you don't collapse dramatically. You just flatten. Emotionally muted. Motivation diluted. Desire confused. You think you want more stimulation. But what you actually crave is immersion. You crave losing yourself in something that matters. But immersion requires silence, focus, resistance. And your brain has been trained to avoid all 3. This is not about morality, it's about conditioning. Your reward system has been hijacked. And the hijacker looks like convenience, it looks like entertainment, it looks like normal life. But normal life has quietly rewired your thresholds. Now deep work feels harder, long-term goals feel distant, and quick hits feel necessary. Necessary just to feel okay. And the more you rely on them, the less okay you become. We still haven't touched the core. But we're getting closer, because this isn't just neurological, it's existential. And that's where it begins to hurt. You keep telling yourself you need better habits, better routines, better systems, better discipline. But underneath that effort, something deeper is eroding. You sit in front of your laptop. The document is open, the cursor blinks. You feel resistance. Not because the task is impossible, because it feels empty. You start typing. Delete. Check your phone. Return. The work itself isn't unbearable. The absence of meaning is. You don't struggle with effort. You struggle with significance. And this is where the discomfort sharpens. Viktor Frankl wrote, "When a person can't find meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure." Read that again. Not because you're weak, not because you lack willpower, but because the psyche cannot tolerate a vacuum. If meaning disappears, stimulation steps in. If direction fades, distraction takes over. Pleasure becomes anesthesia. You don't scroll because you're entertained. You scroll because you're avoiding the weight of something unarticulated. A question you don't want to sit with. Why does this matter? Why am I doing this? Why does it feel so thin? So, your system learned to replace depth with dopamine. But dopamine cannot answer existential questions. It can only postpone them. You feel busy all day. Inputs, outputs, messages, noise. But when the day ends, there's a subtle hollowness. Not dramatic despair, just absence. You accomplished things. But nothing felt anchored. Nothing felt rooted. Frankl survived circumstances that stripped him of comfort, status, certainty. What he observed was not about pleasure. It was about meaning. Those who endured were not the most entertained. They were the most oriented. Orientation is different from motivation. Motivation is emotional. Orientation is existential. You don't lack energy. You lack direction that justifies energy. And when direction weakens, the mind looks for substitutes. Quick rewards, instant novelty, temporary relief. Your distraction is not random, it's protective. It shields you from confronting the possibility that parts of your life feel misaligned. And that realization is heavier than any notification. So you keep moving, keep refreshing, keep consuming. Because if you stop long enough, you might have to ask the question your system has been avoiding. And that question does not care about your productivity. It asks about your meaning. And once that question wakes up, distraction stops feeling harmless. It starts feeling like escape. We are no longer talking about focus. We are talking about orientation. And that changes everything. You say you want peace, but the moment peace appears, you escape it. You sit alone for a minute, no music, no screen, no conversation. Your body stiffens, your leg starts shaking, your fingers look for something to touch. Your eyes scan the room like there's danger. Nothing is happening. That's the problem. Nothing is happening. Silence is not neutral for you anymore. It's confrontational, because silence removes the buffer. No scrolling to soften thoughts, no video to fill the gap, no noise to blur the edges, just you. And the raw texture of your mind. You try to relax. 5 seconds pass. Your brain throws something at you. A memory you didn't resolve, a task you've been postponing, a quiet dissatisfaction you can't fully name. So you interrupt it, open the app, turn on the show, check the email. Relief. Temporary. But it works. Until it doesn't. Here's a scene you recognize. You're in line at a store. 3 minutes of waiting. You could stand still. Instead, you reach. You don't even know what you're looking for. You just don't want to feel the gap. Another scene. You wake up in the middle of the night. The room is dark. Instead of breathing through it, you grab the phone. Light floods your eyes. Your nervous system spikes. Now you're fully awake, and more tired the next day. One more. You finish a task. There's a natural pause. Completion. Instead of letting the satisfaction settle, you immediately seek the next stimulus. You don't let moments land. You skip over them. You've become intolerant of internal space, and space is where integration happens. Space is where meaning forms. Space is where direction clarifies. Without space, your life becomes a stream of reactions. No digestion, no depth, just movement. Constant movement. You think you're avoiding boredom, but you're avoiding confrontation. Because in silence, patterns surface, regrets surface, questions surface, and you don't feel equipped to answer them. So you drown them. Gently. Daily. With noise. But here's the turn you resist. The discomfort in silence is not emptiness. It's unprocessed life. Every moment you rush past accumulates. Every feeling you mute waits. And when silence finally cornered you, it wouldn't be peaceful. It would be overwhelming. So you keep running ahead of it, filling every gap, interrupting every pause, until you no longer remember what it feels like to simply sit without needing to escape yourself. And that loss is not small. It is structural. Because without silence, meaning has nowhere to land. You tell yourself you're productive, You answer fast. You multitask. You stay informed. You're efficient. People praise that. They say you're driven, disciplined, connected. But look closer. You don't sit with one task long enough to feel friction. You switch before resistance deepens. You respond before reflection forms. You call it momentum. But it feels like acceleration without direction. Here's another scene. You're working. A notification appears. You tell yourself it will take 2 seconds. It takes 20 minutes. You return to the original task, but the thread is gone. You reconstruct context. You rebuild focus. You waste energy. And you call it normal. Another scene. You listen to a podcast while answering emails, while texting, while scrolling. You consume information constantly, but ask yourself honestly, what did you integrate? What changed in you? Or did it just pass through like static? You pride yourself on staying busy, but busyness can be camouflage. If you're always reacting, you never have to confront. If you're always consuming, you never have to create. If you're always connected, you never have to face your own interior. Productivity has become your shield. Multitasking has become your sedative. Staying updated has become your justification. And society applauds it. Because society benefits from your attention being fragmented. But fragmentation has a cost. Your nervous system never downshifts. Your mind never fully commits. Your body never settles. You say you don't have time. But what you really don't have is containment. Containment is the ability to stay, to endure the initial boredom, to move past the urge to switch, to remain long enough for depth to appear, and depth does not appear quickly. It emerges after resistance, after discomfort, after the part of you that wants escape has quieted down. But you rarely allow that stage to unfold, because switching feels easier, and ease feels efficient. But here is the inversion you've been avoiding. Your efficiency might be your anesthesia. Your speed might be your avoidance. Your constant engagement might be protecting you from noticing that much of what fills your day does not feel anchored. You don't lack discipline. You lack devotion to something that deserves your sustained attention. And devotion cannot compete with dopamine spikes. It requires patience, repetition, silence. All the things you've trained yourself to resist, so you stay productive, but unfulfilled, active, but thin. And slowly, the capacity to go deep shrinks. Not dramatically, gradually, until the idea of focusing for an hour feels almost threatening, and you call that normal. But normal does not mean healthy, it just means common. And common can still be empty. At first, it feels harmless, just entertainment, just stimulation, just something to take the edge off. But slowly, something shifts. You notice it in small ways. Music doesn't hit the same. Conversations feel slightly flat. Achievements feel brief. You reach a goal. There's a moment of satisfaction. Then it fades faster than it used to. So you look for the next thing. Not because you're ambitious, because the baseline has dropped. Your nervous system has recalibrated. High stimulation becomes normal. Normal life becomes underwhelming. A walk without headphones feels empty. A meal without a screen feels slow. A single task feels insufficient. You need layers. Sound over silence, movement over stillness, input over presence. And when everything is layered, nothing penetrates deeply. Here's a scene. You're out with friends. Someone is telling a story. Halfway through, your attention drifts. You check your phone under the table. You miss the punchline. You laugh anyway. You were there, but not fully. Another scene. You sit down to read something meaningful. 2 pages in, you feel restless. Your chest tightens slightly. You switch to something easier, shorter, faster, less demanding. You tell yourself you'll return later. You rarely do. Over time, the capacity for immersion weakens, not because you're incapable, because you're overstimulated. The irony is painful. You chase stimulation to feel alive. But overstimulation dulls aliveness. The more spikes you consume, the less sensitive you become. Joy requires contrast. Depth requires patience. Satisfaction requires delay. When everything is immediate, nothing feels earned. And when nothing feels earned, nothing feels significant. You begin to confuse intensity with meaning. But intensity fades. Meaning anchors. And here's the shift you can't ignore. You don't crave more stimulation. You crave aliveness. You crave feeling engaged in something that stretches you. Something that demands your full presence. Something that outlasts the dopamine spike. But your threshold for discomfort has shrunk. So the very things that could restore depth feel harder than they used to. Harder to start, harder to stay with, harder to finish. This is the emotional cost. Not collapse, not burnout, flattening. A quiet dullness, a muted range. You still function, you still perform, but something inside feels thinner, less vivid, less grounded. And the scariest part? You start to believe this is just adulthood. That this numbness is normal. That this restlessness is permanent. It's not permanent, but it is conditioned. And conditioning does not reverse itself without resistance, without withdrawal, without choosing depth over immediate relief. And that choice will not feel comfortable at first. You've been trying to fix behavior. Limit screen time. Use productivity hacks. Install blockers. But behavior is downstream. The real fracture is orientation. Viktor Frankl wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Read it slowly. If your why is weak, your how collapses. If your direction is blurry, discipline feels forced. You've been asking, how do I focus? But the deeper question is, what is my focus for? When that question has no weight, your brain defaults to easier rewards. It's not irrational, it's adaptive. A system without meaning conserves energy. And meaning is not a motivational slogan. It is responsibility. It is choosing something that demands you, something that stretches you beyond comfort, something that cannot be satisfied by scrolling. You don't rebuild focus by suppressing dopamine. You rebuild focus by strengthening purpose. Because purpose reorganizes attention. When something truly matters, your nervous system aligns. Discomfort becomes tolerable, delay becomes acceptable, effort becomes coherent, but this is the part most people avoid. Because meaning requires commitment. Commitment requires sacrifice. Sacrifice means you will feel bored sometimes, restless sometimes, uncertain sometimes. And instead of numbing that discomfort, you will have to endure it. That endurance is where depth returns. If this confrontation resonates with you, not as inspiration, but as discomfort, then stay. Subscribe. Not for motivation, for friction. Because this is not about optimizing your habits, it's about reclaiming your orientation. And orientation changes identity. You are not someone who needs less distraction. You are someone deciding what deserves your life. That shift is heavier and freeing. But don't romanticize it. The moment you reduce noise, the void will speak louder. You will feel withdrawal. You will feel irritation. You will feel the urge to go back. Because your system is used to constant stimulation. But this is not punishment. It is recalibration. You are not removing pleasure. You are restoring proportion. And once meaning regains gravity, distraction loses its dominance. Not instantly, gradually. Because attention follows value. And when you decide what truly matters, your mind begins to reorganize around it. This is not about control. It is about responsibility. And responsibility does not feel light. It feels adult. It feels deliberate. It feels less entertaining, but far more alive. And that is the beginning of taking your focus back. The moment you reduce stimulation, something unexpected happens. You don't feel peaceful. You feel irritated. You decide to leave your phone in another room. 5 minutes later, you invent a reason to check it. What if someone needs me? What if I missed something important? The anxiety is disproportionate, but it feels real. You sit at your desk with only one tab open, no music, no background video, no constant input. Your mind rebels. It throws thoughts at you. Old conversations, embarrassing memories, unfinished tasks. It gets louder before it gets clearer. This is withdrawal, not from substances, from noise. Your nervous system is recalibrating. And recalibration feels like loss before it feels like strength. Another scene. You're at dinner. Your phone stays in your pocket. You notice how often others reach for theirs. You feel a subtle urge to join them, to fill the microgaps in conversation, but you resist. The silence stretches. It's uncomfortable. But then something different happens. The conversation deepens. A question lingers longer. Eye contact lasts. You realize how much texture was previously missed. Withdrawal exposes what noise was hiding. Not only discomfort, also intimacy. But don't romanticize this stage. People will react. You're so quiet lately. You disappeared. Why aren't you answering as fast? When you reduce your availability to distraction, others feel it. Because constant access has become the norm. When you reclaim your attention, you disrupt invisible contracts. And disruption creates friction. Inside you, around you. You may even feel less productive at first. Slower, more deliberate, less reactive. This is not regression, it's containment rebuilding. In O Acordo Esquecido, Luciana Santos writes about the silent agreements we make with ourselves. Agreements to abandon depth for convenience, to trade presence for validation. Reducing noise is breaking that agreement, not dramatically, quietly. And breaking agreements with your old self can feel destabilizing, because identity resists change. Your fingers still want the quick hit. Your mind still seeks novelty. Your body still expects constant input. But if you stay through this stage, not perfectly but persistently, something subtle returns. Your thoughts slow down. Your reactions soften. Moments begin to land again. Not every moment, but some. And that is enough to continue. Because what you are rebuilding is not just focus, it is capacity. Capacity to stay, capacity to feel, capacity to choose. And capacity does not grow in comfort, it grows in restraint. You thought this was about productivity, about focus, about attention span. It isn't, it's about identity. Distraction was never just a habit, it was a substitute for direction, for commitment, for the weight of choosing something that matters. When you remove constant stimulation, you are not just changing behavior, you are stepping into responsibility. And responsibility feels heavier than scrolling, because once you see the pattern, you can't pretend you don't. Once you feel the dullness, you can't call it normal anymore. Once you recognize that you've been anesthetizing meaning, the noise loses its innocence. This is the exchange. Fast pleasure for slow depth, immediate relief for sustained significance. Fragmented attention for deliberate presence. You don't get both, you choose. And the choice is not dramatic. It's daily. It's in the 3 seconds before your thumb moves. It's in the moment you decide to stay with a difficult page. It's in the pause after a conversation ends when you don't immediately reach for noise. Small acts, repeated. They rewire more than your brain. They reorient your life. You said you wanted your focus back. But focus is a byproduct. What you actually want is to feel alive in what you are doing, to feel anchored, to feel that your effort points somewhere real. That cannot be downloaded. It cannot be hacked. It must be built. Through restraint, through choice, through meaning. And meaning is not found. It is assumed. It is carried. It is chosen even when comfort tempts you otherwise. This is not a motivational ending. There is no promise that you will suddenly feel clear. There is no guarantee that boredom won't return. It will, so will restlessness, so will the urge to escape. The difference is this: now you know what the escape costs. You know that every reflexive scroll is not just a distraction, it is a vote. A vote for fragmentation or a vote for depth. You don't stop wanting, you stop feeling meaning. And meaning does not return through more stimulation, it returns through responsibility, through choosing what deserves your limited attention, through accepting that your life will become whatever repeatedly captures your focus. So here is the question that remains. When the room goes quiet, when the screen goes dark, when the urge rises, who do you become in that pause? And what kind of life is built from that choice? If you're willing, write it, not what you hope, what you're actually choosing.